How's the weekend? Is it coming?
Yeah, it's going really well. I've spoken to this company that supplies all these kind of things, yeah, and they've got lots of things we can do.
Great news though. I've just managed, we've booked Chris Akabusi to be the highlight speaker at the end
You're
of
kidding,
the
is
dinner.
that definite?
Yes.
Oh, brilliant. Well, in that case, half the things that they actually mentioned we can do, we don't want to do really, because we want to do something really active. If that's the case, we want to do something very active, sporty. Right, okay, so I think we should go for country sports, and we can actually do, oh, you're going to love this, there's one, human table football. You're literally a massive blow-up human table football.
Yes.
We're all tight spot, and we're all playing, and quad biking, yeah.
Flying the ointment time. What are we going to do about you-know-who?
Oh, come on, this is not fair. This is a team-building event. We're sort of like the whole team, there's a load of us, and then one lame duck is going to dictate what we do.
Yeah.
We're going to do something that you don't often get the chance to do in real life. I think you can see these two now thinking, I just so wish I could rewind and have that conversation again. And I think we've all had those occasions. But the magic of drama is that we can. So how about thinking about, we've talked about thinking about what Richard might want. So we won't necessarily have to play it out now, but how about Richard and the team? Has anyone thought to ask the team generally? So
I tell you what, why don't I have a little ask about to see what everyone wants to do, or maybe what they're capable of, because as far as we know, we don't actually know how everybody's feeling or whether anybody's got any injuries or anything that we don't know about.
Absolutely.
So why don't I find out first what everybody's capable of doing and what they would like to do and feel comfortable doing, and then I take them on the list.
And you've got such great enthusiasm.
I know.
But maybe somebody be dragged along because of that enthusiasm. So maybe I ought to do it so I can approach them neutrally. So they
you're not a big boss, so if you say, they'll probably say they have to tick the box.
So maybe you could get one of the team.
Let's ask Richard to go around next time he's in. Next time Richard is in, we'll ask him to go around. How's that? And then he's fully included because then he has decided what the best thing to do is for us as a team.
Now that would be perfect.
Sure. Okay.
Now, we don't, when we learn things, we don't go from zero to hero overnight, as we can tell. And I think there's still a fair degree of room for improvement. But actually, that is natural for us as human beings. We don't suddenly, I've been on a 10-minute training course, so I know everything. We'll pick up some things, but it's only when we go back that we realise what are some of those things that work well and some of those things that don't work well. The big thing, I think, hopefully from today that we can take is it's about that self-awareness. So I think we've said, it's okay, we all have some of these stereotypes. We all have occasions where maybe we forget and we don't include someone as much as we could or should, where we don't think about where they're coming from because we don't know. But if we start to realise when we do it and we take action to put it right, then we're learning as people, we're learning as leaders, and the more that you learn and include people, the more that's going to create the atmosphere of other people being included and appreciated within your organisation.
Feedback is one of those things that people really struggle to give and to receive. Sometimes we don't take it in the best possible way, and sometimes people don't put it across in the best possible way to become constructive. I'm going to give you an example of some feedback, and let me know what you think about it, and then I'm going to do it in a slightly different way. So Amanda, I'm going to give you some feedback. So Amanda, you are always rude to team members. Stop it. So oh, I love that. So how useful was that as a piece of feedback?
Not useful at all.
No.
It's not giving me an example of anything. It's just your point of view.
Yeah. Okay. So if I said, Amanda, yesterday you were talking to Joe and you raised your voice and you stood up and said, for God's sake, get over yourself, and you stormed off before she had a chance to reply. And that actually, Joe was quite upset about that, and it really demotivated her and affected her productivity yesterday. So what I'd like you to do is to sit down and have a conversation with Joe and to see how you can maybe learn to communicate better with each other in future.
Yeah.
So how was that in comparison?
It's giving me an example of when and what's actually happened, which makes the person think, oh gosh, that wasn't my intention. Or well, it was.
Maybe it was.
Actually.
Just so
the way
rude.
around it was.
So what I was doing there was I was using a model that we call AID. So action, impact, development. So the action, talking to Joe, raising your voice, storming off, etc. The impact is what's the difference that made to Joe in terms of her being demotivated, affecting her productivity. And the development is then what I'd like you to instead, which is sit down and have a conversation. Mm-hmm. So these are the two models, AID and BEST. So I want to make sure you've kind of got a note of those. So I'm going to get you to do an exercise on that now. I'm going to put you in pairs. So just to refresh then, so the first one is action, impact, and development. And the second one is the behavior description, which is the A and I, expressing your thoughts or feelings, soliciting input, and then talking about the next steps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split you now into 2 breakout rooms. I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes in each of those. And I'm going to ask you to, I'm going to give you each a couple of examples. I'm going to ask you to think about how you might give feedback in this situation and whether you think the AID or the BEST example is best.
Go first, Jeff.
I think the BEST creates more options, opens possibilities, less closing down. Even though when I was giving the BEST, the person who was receiving it was a person who likes directness and regarded that as a criticism of their directness.
Yes.
And became very defensive of that's the way I am.
Yeah.
So I realized how much, therefore, it becomes a very expansive conversation around that person's personality, giving feedback. So it's not just what you're saying, it's your whole personality, the way you present things that needs to be taken on board.
Really need is to start with the outcome. So before you go into it, rather than just this is the problem, what do we want instead? What actually is it we want to achieve by solving this problem? Where would we like to get to? So this is what we quite often do when we're trying to solve problems. We solve problems with what we know already, and we stick to what we've got already in terms of doing things from that point of view. So when we're looking at this analysis side of things, what we would like to do is to actually do this idea of what we call divergence and then convergence. And I'm going to particularly do an exercise for you in a moment on the divergence. So the idea is that when we've got a problem, the way our minds work is we try to find the one right answer, because that's the way our minds work. They try to make it easier for us, but actually that isn't the right way when you're going to come up with something different and innovative. You actually need to open it up to have a wider set of inputs, different ideas, expanding the options that you've got available and what are sort of the things that you could do. And then once you've got lots of those open, the final part then is say, let's converge. So now we've got those, let's work from those and pick out which are the things that we think could possibly work in this situation. What I am going to do is to demonstrate to you one type of creativity technique, which we call build a connection. So the idea of creativity techniques is that it's to get you to think differently. So you normally will only think within your area of experience. And the idea of this is to get you to go out and then to be able to come back in and make connections. So this is our central word, okay? So what I'd like you all to do is to call out, and you can write it out now around that, just kind of in this space around here. What are other words that kind of, if you were doing that, think of a word, make a connection. What are words that would go with ball? Amanda beat me to the football.
Right. Can I do more than one?
You can do as many as you like, yeah. That's making words that have connected. What we now need to do is think about any vague way that we can connect this back to our challenge. So if we're going back from that point of view of Osara, so what would be a good outcome in terms of meetings, Amanda? Where would you want to get to with meetings? What would be a positive outcome?
Fewer of them and more productivity.
So what we then do is say, okay, let's see if we can make a link between any of these words and having a meeting. So one I can put here, and I'll just put it right next to it, slightly further out. So in terms of bounce, I would think actually you can bounce back meetings. So just because someone invites you, you can actually bounce back invites and say, why do I need to be at that meeting?